Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining today as we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare coins, and in particular we will be focusing on the 1994 P1 dime coin from the United States, a small silver-colored piece that normally has a face value of just 10 cents, yet certain examples of this dime are considered worth up to $100,000 because of their rarity, minting errors, mistakes, and the intriguing stories that surround them, making it an exciting and educational journey for all coin collectors, hobbyists, investors, and those who simply enjoy the mystery of hidden treasures in everyday objects. And in this long and detailed exploration we are going to cover every possible aspect of how such a coin that you might accidentally find in your pocket change, an old jar, or tucked away in a drawer could be valued at life-changing amounts due to circumstances of production, flaws that slip through the strict minting process, and variations in mint marks that experts and collectors chase after with immense passion. So let us begin by reflecting on the context of the 1994 P dime itself, struck in Philadelphia, carrying the well-known portrait of President Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse and the iconic torch flanked by an olive branch and oak branch on the reverse, a coin designed originally by John R. Sinek after Roosevelt's death, becoming a tribute that has lasted for decades, yet while hundreds of millions of these coins rolled out from the Philadelphia Mint in 1994, a select few display unique characteristics that distinguish them from the rest, and those features are what transform a simple everyday 10-cent coin into a rarity that experts, collectors, and auction houses recognize as valuable assets. Now, when we talk about errors and mistakes, it is important to understand that the minting process is both sophisticated and fast-paced, involving enormous presses, precise dies, and careful quality control. But despite these measures, no system is perfect, and occasionally coins are struck with defects that collectors later categorize into broad groups such as doubled dies, off-center strikes, planchette errors, die cracks, repunched mint marks, missing details, or even wrong planchette strikes where a coin is accidentally minted on a blank intended for a different denomination. And in the case of the 1994 P dime, some of these rare varieties exist, sparking immense attention in the numismatic community. For instance, a double die error where the design elements on Roosevelt's face, lettering, or torch show noticeable doubling can attract very high bids, because collectors treasure the rarity and the visual curiosity of such a coin. Similarly, a misaligned die strike can lead to portions of the design being off-center or partially missing, which dramatically increases its appeal. Furthermore, a coin struck on a wrong planchette, such as a foreign blank or a copper planchette intended for a cent rather then a dime, can become a unique specimen commanding astronomical values. Another category that creates tremendous excitement is the mint mark anomaly, and since the 1994 dime from Philadelphia carries the P mint mark, any irregularities such as missing mint marks, mispunched marks, or even odd placements are hotly pursued. Now we must also remember that in 1982 the US Mint officially stopped using mint marks on dimes from Philadelphia for some years, so the return of the P on later issues creates a detailed area of study. And if a 1994 dime with an unexpected absence of P exists, that coin would be considered an extreme rarity, potentially making its way into the history books of US numismatics. Beyond the errors themselves, the condition or grade of the coin plays a huge role in determining its market value, because while circulated examples with errors may still be valuable, an uncirculated, mint state, or even proof-like example with a rare error can soar exponentially in price, with collectors competing at auctions, driving values from a few $100s to tens of thousands, and in certain cases even higher, where a particularly spectacular error combined with pristine condition can elevate a coin to six-figure territory, which is why the 1994 P dime has attracted such attention, and reports of examples being valued at around $100,000 have circulated, fueling both curiosity and treasure hunts by ordinary people. Now one might ask why such errors are so prized, and the answer lies in the blend of rarity, story, and human fascination with imperfection, because while millions of standard coins exist, it is the flawed few that capture imagination and become legends in the collecting world, creating a sense of magic in the idea that something so small, so ordinary, could hide such extraordinary worth. Let us imagine for a moment someone sifting through a jar of change collected over years, and suddenly spotting a dime that looks slightly off. Maybe the mint mark is missing, or the design appears doubled. That moment of discovery transforms the ordinary into a thrilling experience, and this is the essence of coin collecting, where history, art, and chance combine. Now, in terms of technical classification, experts rely on organizations such as the PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, to authenticate and grade these coins, ensuring that their errors are genuine and that the coins are preserved properly, because authentication is essential in a field where counterfeits can appear, and a certified error dime instantly gains more trust and therefore more value in the marketplace. And speaking of the marketplace, the sale of such rare coins often takes place through auction houses, specialized dealers, or even online platforms. And stories abound of unsuspecting individuals discovering they had a valuable error dime and later realizing significant financial gain, creating the allure that drives so many people to carefully examine their change even today. Now let us dive deeper into the specific types of possible errors in a 1994p dime, such as broad strikes where the coin is struck without the retaining collar causing it to spread larger than normal, clipped planches where a portion of the coin is missing in a crescent shape due to a misfeed in the minting process, die cracks where raised lines appear across the coin due to breaks in the die, or even multiple strikes where the coin receives more than one impression. Each of these scenarios transforms the dime into a fascinating piece of minting history and enhances its desirability, especially if the error is dramatic and eye-catching. Now, while not all error coins achieve headline-worthy values, those with spectacular features or extremely low survival numbers can reach levels like the reported $100,000 valuations for certain 1994p dimes, and this is not just speculation but part of a long tradition where coins such as the 1942 overdate dimes, the 1982 no-p dime, or other classic errors became famous and set records, and in that same tradition the 1994p dime has carved its own place, reminding us that even coins from relatively modern decades can achieve legendary status. Now, for collectors starting out, this might feel overwhelming, but the lesson is simple: always check your change. Look closely at details, pay attention to mint marks, edges, alignment, and design clarity, because you never know when you might stumble upon a hidden treasure. And in the case of the 1994p dime, the possibilities are very real, as confirmed by experts, reports, and documented sales. Beyond the financial value, however, there is also cultural and historical value, because coins are miniature artifacts carrying stories of the era they were made in, reflecting both the artistry of the mint engravers and the technical precision of the mint machinery. And when errors appear, they serve as accidental yet authentic witnesses to the challenges and quirks of that era's production, making them not just financial assets but historical curiosities worth preserving. And this is why collectors treasure them so deeply. Furthermore, we must highlight the role of rarity, because not every error coin achieves greatness, but those that are scarce enough and dramatic enough stand apart. And scarcity in combination with collector demand is what drives astronomical prices. So if a small number of 1994p dimes exist with extraordinary mistakes such as missing mint marks or off-metal strikes, then the valuation of $100,000 or more is entirely possible, especially if bidding wars erupt between passionate collectors. And this is why the coin community continues to discuss, debate, and chase after these elusive treasures. Now let us not forget the importance of preservation, because even if you discover such a coin, its ultimate value depends heavily on its condition, and therefore it is crucial to handle it carefully, preferably by the edges, avoiding fingerprints, and storing it in protective holders before seeking professional grading, because any damage, scratches, or cleaning attempts could lower its grade and therefore its potential price. So knowledge and caution are both vital in this treasure hunt. Another fascinating angle is how the story of valuable modern coins like the 1994p dime inspires new generations of collectors, showing that coin collecting is not just about ancient Roman coins or centuries-old gold pieces, but also about coins minted within our own lifetimes, coins that may still be circulating quietly in pockets and wallets, waiting to be discovered. And that sense of immediacy, that possibility that the next handful of change could hide a small fortune, is what makes numismatics so enduringly popular. In conclusion, the 1994p dime, an ordinary coin by design, becomes extraordinary through error, rarity, and discovery, carrying the potential to be worth up to one. Where tiny pieces of metal that most people pass around without a second thought can sometimes turn out to be treasures worth a fortune. And in this case, we are going to talk about the incredible story of a 1982 D1 dime coin from the United States of America that is believed to have a staggering value of about $0.91 million, which is almost beyond imagination when compared to its face value of just 10 cents. Because while most dimes minted in Denver in 1982 were regular circulation, strikes made for daily transactions in shops, vending machines, or banks, there exists an extraordinary and almost mythical piece that, due to multiple minting errors, mistakes, variations in design, and unusual characteristics, has risen to become one of the most valuable dimes ever recorded. And when we dive deeper into its origins and explore how such a simple coin could transform into a million-dollar marvel, we begin to uncover the fascinating interplay between minting technology, human error, metal composition, demand, rarity, and the obsessive passion of collectors who seek these hidden gems and hold them with almost reverent respect as symbols of history, mystery, and unexpected fortune. And the story begins in the Denver Mint during the early 1980s, when the US Mint was dealing with production of millions upon millions of coins each year, meaning that the possibility of mistakes, however rare, was still very real. And among these production runs, the 1982 D-Dime holds a unique place because of the major transition happening at that time in the United States Mint's processes, including changes in metal composition from silver to clad copper-nickel structures, as well as adjustments in die preparation, which sometimes resulted in errors such as missing mint marks, doubled dies, broad strikes off centers, and even transitional errors that combined elements of different series, creating varieties that collectors go absolutely wild for. And in the case of this particular dime, the value reaching close to $0.91 million is attributed to its being a perfect storm of error, rarity, and historical significance, because experts and enthusiasts have reported that certain 1982 D-dimes escaped the mint with misstruck dies, leading to unusual images, letters, and symbols being pressed into the coin, while others may have missing or misplaced mint marks where the D that signifies the Denver Mint was either completely absent, faintly struck, or doubled, which in the world of coin collecting is not a simple curiosity but rather a golden ticket, since mint mark errors dramatically reduce the known population of such coins, meaning supply is so scarce that when one surfaces, the bidding wars among collectors and investors can drive prices into the stratosphere. And in addition to the missing mint mark errors, other varieties have been spotted with doubling on Roosevelt's portrait, particularly around his eyes, mouth, or the inscriptions such as "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," as well as reverse doubling on "United States of America" and "One Dime," which makes these coins even more attractive to error specialists who understand that the sharper the doubling, the rarer and more valuable the coin becomes. And imagine for a moment that something as small as a tiny extra line on a letter or the faint absence of a mint mark could be the difference between a coin worth only 10 cents and one worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And in the case of this legendary 1982 D-Dime, the rarity is so profound that professional graders and auction houses have certified only a handful of surviving examples in high mint state conditions, leading to skyrocketing values in the numismatic market, with some auction results and private sales estimates pushing the figure all the way up to nearly $0.91 million, a price that shocks even seasoned collectors but also excites them, because it demonstrates how coins that were never intended to be more than simple everyday currency can transcend into cultural artifacts of immense worth. And if we examine the possibilities further, the coin might also involve transitional planchette errors, meaning that while most dimes in 1982 were struck on copper-nickel clad planchets, a very tiny number may have accidentally been struck on leftover silver planchets or even foreign coin blanks, creating unique off-metal strikes that are virtually priceless because their existence was purely accidental and undocumented by the mint, making every surviving example a one-of-a-kind treasure. And collectors understand that it is the combination of mystery and rarity that fuels demand, and when people know that only one or two pieces might exist in the entire world, the bidding knows no limits, because owning such a coin is not just about possession but also about prestige, history, and the thrill of having something so rare that almost nobody else will ever touch it in their lifetime. And the 1982 D-Dime is also valuable because it belongs to the Roosevelt dime series, which itself has a strong following given its introduction in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, and has remained unchanged in design for decades, making it one of the longest-running coin series in U.S. history. And within such long series, collectors always crave the anomalies, the accidents, the varieties that break the monotony and stand out as special, and that is exactly what this coin represents: a break from the ordinary, a chance discovery that elevates it above millions of identical counterparts. And when such coins are discovered, whether by lucky finders in pocket change rolls of coins from the bank estate collections or old jars in the attic, they immediately spark headlines and frenzy in the collecting community, because everyone begins to dream that maybe, just maybe, they too could stumble upon such a fortune hiding in plain sight. And this dream is what keeps the market for rare coins alive and thriving, because every collector, big or small, knows that the next Great treasure could be sitting quietly in a roll of dimes or in the change from a morning coffee, and the tale of the 1982 D dime worth nearly $1 million is the embodiment of that dream. It shows that mint errors, while often dismissed by the untrained eye, are in fact coveted masterpieces in the numismatic world, and the possibilities of what kind of mistakes could have happened are vast, ranging from double strikes where the coin was struck twice and images overlap to die clashes where the dies strike each other without a planchette in between, leaving ghostly impressions of the reverse design on the obverse, or vice versa, to broad strikes where the retaining collar malfunctions and the coin spreads out unnaturally to off-centers where part of the design is missing, to planchette flaws that include laminations, cracks, and even wrong metal compositions. And any one of these mistakes on a 1982 D dime could dramatically enhance its value. But when multiple factors combine, such as a missing mint mark on a transitional planchette in pristine condition, the result is the stuff of legend. And that is why a coin with a face value of just 10 cents can demand up to $0.91 million in the open market, because rarity, demand, and condition converge into one perfect storm of value. And the story does not stop there, because when collectors analyze such coins, they also consider historical context, such as the economic conditions of the early 1980s, the minting technology used, the policies of the US Mint at the time, and the sheer volume of coins produced, which makes the survival of such rare error coins even more miraculous, because they had to slip past quality control, survive circulation without being damaged, and then eventually be recognized by someone with knowledge and curiosity enough to realize what they had. And this journey from mint to market makes the story even more captivating, because it is not just about a coin but about history, luck, chance, and the human passion for collecting and appreciating beauty in small details. And as we look at the astounding $0.91 million valuation for this 1982 D dime, we also reflect on how coin collecting is not simply a hobby but a field of study, art, and investment, where specialists spend lifetimes chasing rare varieties, documenting errors, studying die states, and building collections that preserve the heritage of currency and tell stories about the nation's history and technological progress. And this dime is a perfect example of that, as it is a coin that most people would overlook, yet in the hands of an expert it becomes a treasure chest of knowledge and wealth. And the fact that errors like missing mint marks or double dies or transitional planches can make such a difference is a reminder that perfection is not always valuable, but imperfection sometimes is priceless. And that is the irony and beauty of numismatics. And when such a coin comes to auction, the excitement is palpable, because bidders know they are not just buying metal, they are buying history, rarity, and exclusivity. And it is this exclusivity that justifies the astronomical price tags. And when the hammer falls at nearly $1 million for a 1982 D dime, it becomes headline news and inspires a new generation of collectors to check their pocket change carefully and dream of finding the next big discovery. And so, as we bring this fascinating story to you, we hope you are now inspired to look more closely at the coins you hold in your hands. Because who knows, the next fortune could be waiting in your wallet, your coin jar, or even in the change from a grocery store. And the magic of this hobby is that treasures are still out there waiting to be found, just like the 1982 D1 dime that against all odds rose from a humble 10 cents to an incredible $0.91 million marvel, capturing imaginations and proving that sometimes the smallest things carry the greatest value. And as we end this story, remember that every coin has a story, but only a rare few carry a legend. And the 1982 D dime is on where we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare coins, and in particular the incredible story of the 1974 D1 dime coin from the United States of America that has shocked collectors and experts alike by being valued at an astonishing $540,000, far beyond its humble face value of just 10 cents, and it's all thanks to a combination of errors, minting mistakes, and rare characteristics that make this piece of history not only an object of curiosity but also a treasure of immense financial worth and cultural significance. So let's embark together on this journey where every small detail of this coin's design, history, and error patterns will reveal why it has managed to secure such extraordinary value. Because when you look at an everyday coin, it seems ordinary and unremarkable, but hidden within some of them are quirks and anomalies that transform them from pocket change into a fortune. And the 1974 D dime is a perfect example of this phenomenon. Starting with the basics, we know the dime is a 10-cent coin that forms an integral part of US currency, smaller and lighter than the nickel or quarter but no less important in the functioning of daily commerce. Yet in 1974 at the Denver Mint, a batch of dimes were struck with certain anomalies, whether due to die cracks, misaligned strikes, double strikes, planchette errors, or even mistakes in mint marks. And these unusual flaws immediately caught the eyes of numismatists who understand that rarity plus demand equals value. and over time these particular dimes have been hunted by collectors eager to add to their collections, with the one that rose to legendary status being the 1974 D dime that sold for an eye-watering $540,000, a price that seems surreal for such a tiny piece of metal, yet fully justified when you consider how numismatic value is determined, because value is not about face denomination, it's about rarity, condition, demand, and the uniqueness of errors, and the 1974 D dime checks all these boxes. Now errors themselves can be of many types, and each type adds a layer of uniqueness to the coin. For instance, double die errors occur when the die that stamps the coin is misaligned during creation and imprints a doubled image on certain elements such as the date or the motto, and this error is highly prized because it is so visually striking. Sometimes words appear doubled or ghost-like and collectors know they are dealing with something unusual. Then there are off center strikes which occur when the coin blank is not properly seated in the press, leading to a design that is shifted and incomplete, and the more off-center the strike while still showing the date and mint mark, the more valuable it becomes. So if a 1974 D dime carries such an off-center strike along with legible details, then its desirability skyrockets. Furthermore, there are planchette errors where the metal blank used to strike the coin is defective, clipped, or of incorrect composition, and such errors make the coin dramatically different from its counterparts, and in some rare instances coins are struck on the wrong planchette entirely. Imagine a dime struck on a quarter planchette or penny planchette. The mismatch creates a bizarre coin that is instantly rare. Then there are mint mark anomalies, and in the case of the Denver Mint, the letter D was stamped onto the coins but sometimes inconsistently, leading to repunched mint marks, misplaced marks, or even faint or missing mint marks. And collectors pay extreme attention to these details because they signify minting irregularities that slipped past quality control and survived in circulation, turning them into hidden treasures for sharp-eyed collectors to find. In 1974, such errors at the Denver Mint gave birth to some spectacular dimes that today are worth fortunes, and the most famous of these is the one that auctioned for $540,000. And when we ask why someone would pay over $500,000 for a 10-cent coin, the answer lies in the allure of rarity combined with the passion of collectors who see coins not just as metal but as historical artifacts, miniature time capsules, and symbols of national heritage. And when you have a coin that is not only old but also features unique anomalies, its value transcends money and becomes about pride of ownership, about holding a once-in-a-lifetime piece in your collection. And so the 1974 D dime is a dream find for any collector. Now let's break down more of the specific error possibilities that could elevate a dime's value to such staggering heights. One of them is the broad strike error, where the coin expands beyond its intended size because it was struck without the collar that normally keeps it confined, creating a dime that looks stretched out and flat but still retains its details, and these odd-looking coins fascinate collectors. Then there's the cut error, where a piece of the die breaks off and leaves a raised blob of metal on the coin, making the design incomplete and distinctly unique. These are one of a kind since no two cut breaks are identical, further increasing desirability. Also worth noting is the possibility of transitional errors. These occur when a coin is struck in a year with the wrong metal composition from a previous or following year, while dimes after 1965 were composed of copper nickel clad instead of silver. Rare mistakes sometimes lead to coins struck on leftover silver planchets, and if a 1974 D dime were to exist on a silver planchette, its value would be astronomical due to rarity and composition. Another element that boosts coin value is condition, often measured by grading scales like MS 65 or higher for mint state coins, and the better preserved the coin with fewer scratches, marks, or wear, the more its price increases. So when you take a 1974 D dime with an error and place it in near perfect condition, it becomes not just valuable but nearly priceless to serious collectors. That's how we arrive at auction results in the hundreds of thousands. Now, in addition to technical errors, we must consider historical context. The 1970s were a transitional era for coin production. The US Mint was modernizing its machinery, experimenting with production techniques, and dealing with rising demand for coinage, all of which increased the likelihood of minting errors. And Denver in particular was a busy minting facility handling huge output, so quality control lapses were bound to happen, meaning more potential for error coins to slip into circulation. And while most people who spent these dimes never noticed anything unusual, dedicated numismatists who carefully examined every detail did, and their discoveries helped create the lore surrounding these rare 1974 D dimes. And as time passed, with fewer and fewer of these surviving in good condition, their rarity and value multiplied, making them prized pieces in numismatic history. Now imagine stumbling upon such a dime in your Pocket change, a coin worth $540,000 sitting casually among nickels and pennies. The thought itself excites the imagination and is a driving reason why coin collecting continues to thrive, because there is always the chance of discovering a hidden treasure. Another aspect that cannot be ignored is the role of auctions and collectors' markets in setting prices. Often when a rare coin is brought to auction, the bidding wars between determined collectors or institutions drive the price far higher than its initial estimate, and this is exactly what happened with the 1974 D dime, whose rarity and error combination fueled competitive bidding until the final hammer price reached more than $500,000, a result that cemented its legendary status. Furthermore, the role of third-party grading companies cannot be underestimated. When a coin is authenticated, graded, and encapsulated by reputable firms like PCGS or NGC, its legitimacy and quality are assured, making collectors more confident to invest huge sums. So the 1974 D dime that reached $540,000 was undoubtedly a graded specimen of top quality with its error clearly documented, and this professional validation played a crucial role in its record price. What makes this story even more remarkable is that such a small, light coin could hold such massive value, reinforcing the idea that in numismatics, size or denomination has no bearing on worth, only rarity, demand, and uniqueness do, and the 1974 D dime embodies all three perfectly. So while most of us look at a dime as spare change, in the right circumstances it becomes a fortune, and this transformation from pocket change to treasure is what makes coin collecting so captivating. It's a field where patience, knowledge, and sharp observation are rewarded with discoveries that can change lives, and the existence of a dime worth $540,000 is proof of this potential. So as we explore more about the specific design of the 1974 dime, let's recall that on the obverse it carries the portrait of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, designed by John R. Sinek, with the inscriptions Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust, the date 1974, and the mint mark D indicating Denver, while the reverse features a torch flanked by an olive branch and oak branch symbolizing peace, strength, and victory, with the words United States of America, e pluribus unum, and one dime. Now in ordinary circulation these are everyday dimes, but when struck with anomalies or errors they become something altogether different, so collectors pay close attention to doubling in the inscriptions, distortions in Roosevelt's portrait, irregularities in the torch or branches, or misplaced mint marks, each of which could signify a unique minting anomaly. And with the 1974 D dime we know that one or more of these rare conditions aligned in such a way that its value exploded to $540,000, making it legendary. So next time you hold a dime, look closely, because you never know what secrets it may carry, perhaps a misaligned where an ordinary-looking coin, a simple 1967 one dime from the United States of America, something that most people would overlook in their pocket change or spend without a second thought, turns out to be worth an unbelievable $67 million because of the rare mistakes, the unusual minting errors, and the specific historical circumstances that make it drastically different from its face value of just 10 cents, and this is exactly the kind of mystery and treasure hunting that keeps the hobby of coin collecting alive and exciting, since people around the world are still searching their change jars, drawers, and inherited collections in the hope that they might stumble upon one of these legendary errors that completely transform an everyday coin into a once-in-a-lifetime fortune. And when we talk about the 1967 dime we need to remember the historical background because that year was significant in American coinage. It was a time when the US Mint was shifting metal compositions, dealing with rising silver prices, and introducing new minting practices to keep up with the demand for circulating coins, and during this transitional phase many oddities, variations, and errors occurred, so finding a 1967 dime with a mistake isn't impossible, but finding one that combines multiple rare factors, the kind of unique circumstances that give it astronomical value, is what makes this story so powerful, because collectors always place the highest value on coins that combine scarcity with uniqueness, and that's exactly the situation here. Now let's break down why a dime from 1967, something that most people assume is only worth 10 cents, could fetch a value of $67 million at auction, and it begins with the fact that 1967 was one of the years when the mint did not officially include mint marks, the little letters that indicate whether a coin came from Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, since mint marks were temporarily suspended from 1965 through 1967 as part of an effort to discourage coin hoarding, which was becoming a serious issue after the US government removed silver from circulating dimes and quarters. So if you see a 1967 dime, you'll notice that it has no mint mark. But here's where the story gets interesting. Because a small number of 1,967 dimes were accidentally struck with mint marks even though they were not supposed to have them, and any appearance of a mint mark from that year is considered extremely rare. Almost impossible, but authenticated examples exist and collectors go wild for them. And imagine if that error were combined with other mistakes like double strikes, off-center strikes, planchette errors, or transitional metal compositions. The value skyrockets because each of those factors makes the coin more unusual and more desirable to serious numismatists. And one of the most discussed varieties is the 1967 dime struck on a silver planchette, because officially by that year dimes were supposed to be made of a copper-nickel clad composition, but some leftover silver planchets from 1964 still found their way into the presses and got struck with later dates. So finding a 1967 dime struck on silver is already a major rarity, and pairing that with a mint mark error or another striking mistake would result in a coin so unique that it becomes virtually priceless. And collectors and auction houses know that when two or more of these rare features overlap, the result is often an unprecedented sale, which is why one of these error dimes could command a value of $67 million, and while to the average person this sounds unbelievable, in the world of high-end numismatics record-breaking sales like this are not impossible, as we've seen with the 1933 Double Eagle or the 1794 Flowing Hair Silver Dollar. Coins that technically should be worth only face value but because of rarity and history end up selling for tens of millions, and the 1967 dime falls into the same category of unbelievable rarity combined with mistake-driven desirability. So when you think about it, this single coin embodies so many possibilities. Maybe it has a double die obverse where the date or the lettering appears doubled from a misaligned strike. Maybe it has a misaligned die clash that caused the design to be imprinted strangely. Maybe it has a broad strike error where the coin is stretched wider than normal. Or maybe it's a transitional composition where the wrong metal planchette was fed into the press, and each of these is rare on its own, but when combined in a single coin, especially in a year where mint marks were not supposed to exist at all, you suddenly have the holy grail of coin collecting, something so unique that no other collector can own its twin, and this uniqueness is what drives the astronomical valuation, because serious collectors, wealthy investors, and even museums are willing to pay almost anything for the chance to own the only known example of such a coin. And this is why the 1967 dime with errors is said to be worth $67 million. And now let's take a moment to imagine the journey of such a coin. Struck accidentally at the mint more than 50 years ago, it might have slipped into circulation unnoticed, passed from hand to hand buying groceries or paying for gas. It might have sat in someone's pocket change jar for decades. Or it might have been spotted early on by a sharp-eyed collector who realized it didn't look like other dimes and tucked it away in a safe. And today, with advanced grading services like PCGS and NGC, coins like this can be authenticated, certified, and protected, which only adds to their value, because collectors know the rarity is real and documented. And when it comes to mint mark errors specifically from 1967, the oddity is even more intriguing because officially there should be none. And yet history shows that mistakes happen. Sometimes mint workers accidentally use dies that were not supposed to be in service, sometimes old dies get reused, and sometimes experimental strikes or test runs slip out into the wild, and when those rare survivors turn up in collections or at auctions they immediately set records. So this is the magic of numismatics, the blending of history, error, and human curiosity, all wrapped into a small metal disc that most people would never look twice at. And when you realize that one little dime from 1967 can hold within it the story of economic change, minting, transitions, human error, and collector passion, it makes sense why the valuation could reach such dizzying heights. And while many people think coin collecting is just about silver or gold content, the truth is the highest values often come from mistakes, because rarity is always about how few survive, not about the metal itself. So a copper-nickel dime with the right error can be worth more than a gold coin. And this 1967 dime proves it. And what makes the story even more captivating is that there may still be undiscovered examples out there, hidden in collections, buried in old jars, or resting unnoticed in bank rolls, which is why so many people continue to search their change, because the dream of finding a multi-million-dollar coin in everyday life is what keeps the excitement alive. And it's not an exaggeration to say that this dream has turned into reality for a lucky few who have found rare coins worth fortunes. So when we think of the 1967 dime worth $67 million, we are not just talking about a number, We are talking about a symbol of possibility, of the incredible surprises history leaves behind, and of the enduring human fascination with the smallest details, because a missing mint mark, a doubled number, or a wrong plan check can make the difference between a coin worth 10 cents and a coin worth a life-changing fortune. And this is why people all over the world are captivated by the story, because it shows that treasure can still be found, and it reminds us that even in the most ordinary objects extraordinary value can be hidden, waiting for the right eyes to see it. And that is the incredible tale of the 1967 dime that could be worth $67 million.